Hello, my name is Emma, and today I'm going to be sharing some of my theories for Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare. Lord of Shadows, the second book in the Dark Artifices series by Cassandra Clare, comes out on May 23rd. We are like just over a month away, and I am immensely excited. So in anticipation for this book that will destroy me, I have some predictions. So in planning this video, I've realized it's kind of like 3/4 my theories and then 1/4 a discussion about the Dark Artifices in general, talking about other theories I've come across online, just all the Dark Artifices things I am ready to talk about. Also, fair warning, as all of these Shadowhunter Chronicles are kind of intertwined, I'm going to be pulling from all of the different series, the Mortal Instruments, the Infernal Devices, as well as the Dark Artifices to make these theories, so watch at your own risk if you're not totally caught up. Starting off, we have to talk about the Lady Midnight, as Annabelle wakes up in the epilogue of Lady Midnight. As a spell to wake up Annabelle required Blackthorn blood specifically, and none of our favorite Blackthorns have died, all of us are kind of confused as to how she woke up. Cassie Clare answered a Tumblr ask a while ago, so I'm going to try my best to find it and link it below, but she basically talked about all the other different possibilities that could have happened that caused Annabelle to wake up and where she's going to go from here. I'm leaning towards the possibility that this spell can be completed gradually, meaning that Annabelle is not completely restored despite waking up. I personally believe that Annabelle is kind of like half alive and well. She's not fully alive, she's just awoken as a result of the spell, and she's going to spend, if not all Lord of Shadows, part of Lord of Shadows, trying to complete the spell herself, whether that means killing a Blackthorn or getting whatever other necessity she needs. Kind of like Voldemort in Goblet of Fire, where he's kind of like half alive but not totally alive. That's how I kind of see this going, but a little less creepy. As we can see, the cover of Lord of Shadows features London Bridge, and it has been confirmed that part of Lord of Shadows takes place at the London Institute. I don't want to necessarily say this has any significant relevance, but I did notice this while I was planning my theories. Malcolm and Annabelle did fall in love and first meet in Cornwall, which is only like 5 hours away from London. I'm not going to say for sure that they go there, that I really see that even happening, but I do think that part of the reason that they're going to England has something to do with Malcolm and Annabelle. Maybe they're trying to find an end to the curse. Maybe they know Annabelle is awake and they're trying to stop her from being fully alive. I don't know. I saw the connection and it made sense, which is the whole point of a theories video. As we know from book 1, Lady Midnight is not just the title of the first book, it is an actual person. So of course the question of the hour is, who is the Lord of Shadows? This is actually a theory that's not individually mine. It originally came from Christine from Poland Bananas Books. I'm sure you have watched her theory video already, but if you haven't, it's down below. But I completely agree with her that it may be Julian. If you have read Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, you would know that James Harrendale possesses the ability to turn into an actual shadow as a result of Tessa, his mother's demon blood, and it is said, at least on Shadowhunters Wikia, that Lucy Harrendale also possesses some kind of abilities as a result of her mother's magic, though we aren't totally sure as to what they are yet. Lucy is confirmed to marry into the Blackthorn family, meaning that Julian and the rest of his family are somehow distantly related to Lucy, James, and Tessa. So it is plausible that somewhere down the line somebody could have like an emergence of demon blood as a result of being related to Tessa Gray. Even that alone opens up so many other questions about the Blackthorn family from the 1900s on. The first question is, how potent is this demon blood and can it really resurface generations down the line? But does that also mean that there is possibly some Blackthorns that may have abilities that we just don't know about yet? In Lady Midnight, I unfortunately could not find a specific page number, but Arthur Blackthorn does talk about the damnation of the Blackthorns. So does this mean he may know about the fact that there is some kind of demon magical blood within his family line, or is he talking about something completely different that's just gonna blow us out of the water regardless? Either way, that quote from him is significant, but we have to keep talking about Julian because of this budding love triangle between him and Emma, or if you really consider all of Mark's potential love interests, it's like literally a love hexagon at this point. My basic rundown of how I think Lord of Shadows is gonna go is Emma and Mark are going to start dating, as they say they're going to at the end of Lady Midnight. I think Emma may start developing some genuine feelings for Mark because she did have a crush on him when she was like 12 years old, but I don't think that means that she's going to stop loving Julian, and I don't think that Julian is going to stop loving her either, even though that's the whole intention of this stupid fucking setup. I do think Julian is going to go absolutely fucking ballistic. I think it's when Julian walks in on Emma and Mark talking, but he outright says, if you and Mark ever got together, I could never come back from that. And it's happening, and he's not gonna come back from it, and we all know it. Tessa relates to Emma that you can hurt someone enough that they'll stop loving you, which is obviously Emma's intention because she's aware that she will never not love Julian, but she wants to make him not love her so that this whole power thing doesn't happen, so that they don't kill their family and all the people that they love. But I don't think this action is going to do anything of that sort. I don't think it's going to make him stop loving her. I just think it's going to absolutely destroy him inside. But I absolutely think they're going to continue loving each other. Their love is going to grow. This power coming from their parabatai bond out of romance is going to grow, and shit's going to hit the fan. But seriously, I really feel like Julian is going to get very, very dark from this point on. I'm absolutely confident in it. We already start to see this more cruel side of Julian at the end of Lady Midnight when he completely sells out Anselm Nightshade to Robert Lightwood, the Inquisitor, just to protect his family. Oh, we will talk about Anselm Nightshade later. The thing that really gets to me though is this wasn't even like a split-second decision for Julian. He had been planning this from the beginning of Lady Midnight. Like, this was a premeditated act. On page 631 of Lady Midnight, Emma actually like expresses her feelings to Julian, and she says, "The way you orchestrated everything tonight, Julian, you scared me a little." As we move down the page, we're getting this overview of everything that Julian is telling Emma, and it basically goes into like all these realizations he's had about himself, where he says how he did not know who he was sometimes, how he was capable of doing the things he did, and yet how he couldn't not do them. So things are obviously brewing within Julian, and I really don't think it's going to take a turn for the better. After finishing Lady Midnight, we learn that love between two parabatai can really start to corrupt Shadowhunters. They get consumed by power, they start doing extremely horrific, evil things. So what if by the end of Lady Midnight, the love Emma and Julian have for each other is starting to change him already? Let's just take that one step further. Now, Cassie Clare has confirmed that 4 people are going to die in Lord of Shadows. 4 named characters that we know of will die in a few weeks. So my thought is, what if one of those deaths is a result of Emma and Julian being in love with each other because their parabatai bond is going to corrupt them? And I would just... So a point of interest across a lot of theories is Emma's sword, Cortana. I am 100% in agreement that the sword holds some kind of unknown significance that we are not aware of yet, but there have been a lot of theories relating it to its involvement with the parabatai bond. Everyone wants to know, how could we make Emma and Julian not parabatai anymore? We just want them to be happy. They cannot be happy and in love unless they are not parabatai. Like, how are we going to stop this from happening? And the reason that Cortana comes into play is because Emma's mother tells her that a blade made by Waylon the Smith can cut through anything. So everyone is like, why can't it cut through the parabatai bond? In my critique, number one, it's not specific enough. It doesn't say Cortana specifically is the only sword that can cut through a parabatai bond. It says that any blade made by Waylon the Smith can. And with that logic, then Clary's sword, Hesperos, would also be able to cut through the parabatai bond, and I don't think it is individual enough for Cortana to be like our amazing magical solution. And number two is Cortana is a physical thing, and I just don't see how it can cut through an invisible bond. We know from previous books that if you destroy a rune beyond repair, its power will stop working, but I don't think cutting is enough to completely eradicate the parabatai bond. Personally, I think just cutting the rune with Cortana would be like super anticlimactic for like this big crazy finale, but then the only other thing that I can think of that Cortana would really play a part in this is if Emma like stabs Julian with Cortana like in the chest, and if that's the case, we already did that in City of Lost Souls, and I have higher expectations for something new. But on a related note, Cortana plays another mysterious role when Emma stabs Malcolm with Cortana. She hits the black book, and there is this kind of like electricity that goes up her arm and really focuses in on the endurance rune that Julian wrote on her, and it basically is like burning in pain, like there is something is wrong here. So there's been quite a few different people on the internet saying like maybe this broke the parabatai bond, maybe it weakened it. That's also another theory that I just personally don't agree with. Number one, it's really hard for me to believe that the parabatai bond can just be broken with like no feeling behind it whatsoever. There's been instances of parabatai bonds being broken without death, but I just feel like if it was something in like such a split second, it would be way more significant than just Emma feeling something focused on her endurance rune. Like I feel like if something happened, her parabatai rune would hurt or it would like come off. I just feel like there would have been more. Number two, can you just fucking imagine if we got to Queen of Air and Darkness and Cassie Clare was just like, surprise, you guys have not been parabatai for 2 books now. Haha, joke's on you, plot twist. I think that would be the day I stopped reading. Number three is the one that's really significant for me, and that is the fact that if they are no longer parabatai or if their bond is weakened in some way, we won't fully be able to see the effects of parabatai love in real time. Logically, if the bond doesn't exist anymore, we would never have any more impossibly strong runes that come from the other parabatai, or we wouldn't have any more scenes of these connected experiences they have. They would just be regular shadow hunters. So personally, I am 100% in agreement that Cortana has a huge role that is going to play. I think it'll probably play more more into Queen of Air and Darkness, because you know, we always love the finales for those sorts of things. I think it is going to have something huge for us in store, but I don't think it's going to fix this current predicament. So now we have to talk about Ansel Nightshade, which is actually what my first Lord of Shadows theories was, because I came up with it while reading Lady Midnight. So while I was reading Lady Midnight for the first time, I also had stopped for a bit to read Notable Shadowhunters and Denizens of Downworld. It's a book I've talked about quite a lot on my channel. Basically, it's like an encyclopedia about information about certain characters and whatnot. When I got to Jocelyn Frey's page, I realized that her mother's maiden name was Adele Nightshade. So there is a canonical Shadowhunter family with the last name Nightshade. Now, every single name that Cassie Clare gives one of her characters has significance. Like, we do not have two Jonathan Morgensterns for the shits and giggles. Every time a character is given a name, it holds a specific meaning. So there is no way that there is any coincidence that Clary's grandmother's maiden name was Nightshade and we have a character with the last name Nightshade. This was planned. Now, I don't know for sure exactly how much relevance this scene holds, but you guys know that I'm going to read into every single little detail when it comes to the Shadowhunter Chronicles. But at the end of Lady Midnight, when Ansel Nightshade is being like arrested or taken to the Clave because he's been putting addictive powders in his pizza, Clary is the one to apprehend him. Not Jace, who is a more experienced Shadowhunter, not the freaking Inquisitor of the Clave, who is one of the highest levels of authority. It's the only person in that room that we know to have some kind of connection with. So that is something really subtle that I picked up on, and it's just like feeding into my theory, but I swear to God, Ansel Nightshade has some shit in store for his character. There's also the fact that in the Mortal Instruments series, he was the first vampire chosen to be a part of the new council. So this discovery has left me with a lot of questions, a lot of different ways this can go, but I'm like so focused on the fact that Ansel Nightshade has something to do with the Shadowhunters. Part of me is like, he has to have been a Shadowhunter at some point. Like, there's literally no other explanation for him to have a Shadowhunter family name. But then the other part of me is like, how don't people know this? Everyone and their mother knows that Luke was born Lucian Greymark, a Shadowhunter. Ansel Nightshade carries around a Shadowhunter name without any fear like Johnny Rook did. Shadowhunters are so limited in supply, like how do they not know that one of them turned into a Downworlder? So I have two theories. Number one is that Ansel Nightshade is a part of a lost line of Nightshades. It's not the ones that Adele was from that are still within the Clave, whether it was Anselm's family, whether it was one of his ancestors. At some point they left the Clave, they disappeared, they kind of took a Lovelace route, like where George Lovelace came from, and he never had marks. He was never a part of that Clave, and that's why nobody knows that he was previously a Shadowhunter. I personally believe in theory one at this point, but there is the possibility that the Clave actually does know that Ansel Nightshade was a Shadowhunter, or at least exclusive members of the Clave know, and that's potentially why he was originally chosen as a representative. As the Shadowhunters favor Luke, they feel he's more trustworthy because he was a Shadowhunter. Maybe the same thing applied to Anselm. Theory number three that I literally just thought of is that Anselm is actually Adele's brother, and like, oh my god, alliteration. I literally just realized that's actually kind of plausible, especially because we know nothing about Adele Nightshade other than it's Jocelyn Frey's mother. I'm definitely sticking with the fact that he is a part of a lost line of Shadowhunters, which kind of seems to be Cassie Clare's thing, as we have seen in her other books, but the other two are possible. I just know for a fact that Ansel Nightshade is gonna play a significant role that none of us really expect. So now I want to talk about Kit and Ty because I'm fucking obsessed. They are gonna train together, they are gonna fall in love, they're gonna become boyfriends, and they're going to be the main characters of the Wicked Powers Fight Me. Cassie said that after the release of Lord of Shadows, she's going to confirm who the main characters of the Wicked Powers are, and I am telling you, it is Kit and Ty. We don't know much about the Wicked Powers, but we do know that the two protagonists are going to be two of the younger Blackthorns. We know that another main character is going to be a Herondale that is not Jace, and we also know that it takes place like 3 or 4 years after the end of the Dark Artifices. Number one, Ty and Livy are twins. Number two, Kit's real name is Jonathan Herondale. And number three, about 3 or 4 years after the Dark Artifices, if I'm correct, Ty, Livy, and Kit will all be around like 17, 18, which is like the prime time age for a YA protagonist. Another theory related to this, whether it happens at the end of Lord of Shadows or Queen of Air and Darkness, is that by the end of the Dark Artifices, Ty will agree to be Livy's parabatai. Livy really wants to be Ty's parabatai, and when I think about it, it breaks my heart because Ty just doesn't grasp the concept and the significance of parabatai. He is like, we can do all of this stuff anyways, just being siblings and Shadowhunters, and he wants to go to the Scolamands, which he can't do if he has a parabatai. But I do believe that by the end of everything they go through, he will agree to be Livy's Livy's parabatai. And somewhere down the line, it's reported that Cassie did say that she wants to write a story about gay shadow hunters in the future. So I am telling you right now, The Wicked Powers is going to feature Kit Haringdale and Ty Blackthorne and his parabatai Livy, and they're gonna live happily ever after fighting for the rights of the Shadowhunter world, and it's gonna be fucking amazing. So the final topic I want to talk about in this video is about a long conversation, and this is going to be a long conversation about a long conversation. Everyone and their mother, after reading Lady Midnight and the following short story, wants to know what's wrong with Jace and Clary. Why doesn't Clary want to marry Jace? Why doesn't Clary love Jace anymore? Why is Clay having problems? All I am thinking in this chaos is, why are we carrying on this idea that one's love for another and their relationship is determined by a proposal acceptance? Not saying yes to a proposal does not necessarily mean that you don't love the person. It doesn't necessarily mean that you don't want to marry this person. It can just mean that you don't want to be married right this second. Clary can absolutely say, Jace, I am completely and irrevocably in love with you, and I do want to marry you someday, but it's not something I want to consider right now. And I know for a fact that Jace would be 100% respectful of her decision. The short story basically ends with Clary saying that she's dreading answering Jace, and everyone's like, oh my god, why is she dreading answering him? This is like the worst thing to ever happen. And like, she could possibly just be dreading telling him no because she doesn't want to hurt his feelings, because she knows that Jace takes everything very personally. None of this suggests an impending breakup. We also have to remember that Clary and Jace came from two very different worlds with different marriage customs. Jace comes from Shadowhunters that believe that time with your loved ones is limited, and so you have to take every chance that you can to be with them, and we marry young and we have children and we start a family young because you could die in battle the next day. Clary comes from the mundane world where as a society we are progressively getting married later in life. Like, I think in 2007 when Clary originally met Jace and when she started to fall in love with him, the average age of a woman to be married was 26, which is still 5 years later as to what the age she is now. And if you were as obsessed with the Shadowhunter Chronicles as I am, we would know that in City of Glass on page 388, Clary expresses her feelings about young marriage when Jocelyn tells her that she married Valentine at 18, and Clary's response is, oh my god, Clary said in horror, you'd kill me if I wanted to get married when I was 18. So whether it is just in her own household, Clary has grown up knowing that getting married while young is not something that is necessarily approved of. But in City of Heavenly Fire, we actually get more specific into Clary's personal feelings about marrying, specifically marrying Jace. This happens right after Clary, Jace, Simon, Isabel, and Alec have entered the demon realms, and they are given these dreams of these visions as to what they really want by this demon, and Clary is engaged to Jace. So when finding out that she's engaged to Jace, she says, I just don't remember him proposing. And so her brother Jonathan says, oh, I don't know if he ever did. We all just knew you'd end up together. It was inevitable. But I should have gotten to choose, she said, and in your whisper, I should have gotten to say yes. And then Jonathan replies, well, you would have, wouldn't you? And if you turn to the next page, she doesn't respond. To end that, Cassie Clare is the queen of foreshadowing, and we all know it. But seriously, Clary and Jace have been through so much already. Clary's mother stole her memories and the person that she really is. She also killed her father and her brother at 16. Jace is a survivor of abuse, and he's probably still coming to terms with his identity. And both of these two individuals have a massive responsibility at 21 years old, being some of the youngest people to ever run an institute. They are so fucking young. Can we just let them revel in the innocence that has been stolen from them time and time again without having to impose different expectations on them on top of everything they're going through? From the very first time I finished this short story, I viewed Clary's hesitation as a way to challenge the idea that to be happy and in love is to be married. Right off the bat, I was so impressed that Cassie Clare took this risk because I knew fans were going to be upset, but it really does step out of so many different YA books that are out there, and I think it is a positive thing for the genre as a whole. And knowing that there is now this message to young girls and young women that we are capable of making our own choices, that we don't have to be married so young or be married at all, and we can still be loving, caring, successful individuals, that is so much more important to me than seeing my all-time favorite 100% ship OTP being married with a bunch of kids at such a young age. That is why I loved Clary's hesitation and what we've all perceived to be Clary saying no. I stand by it, and I think it is a really positive thing. As I'm thinking about it, I'm like, what if Cassie Clare comes across my reaction to this scene and she is just like, she actually doesn't love Jace anymore, they're all gonna die, gotcha. Probably. But that is essentially it for my Lord of Shadows theories, discussions, all that good stuff. Lord of Shadows comes out so unbelievably soon. I am crazy excited for it, and I hope you guys are too. Definitely leave some comments below. Let me know what some of your theories are. What do you think of my theories? Don't be afraid to bash on them because I'm all for discussion. But that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you soon for a new one. Bye!